I guess it's Janae, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're continuing the read along of Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish, Volume 4. I'm so sorry about the mess that was the end of the previous live stream. Our router just kind of suddenly stopped working and like disconnecting, reconnecting, and then eventually it just completely stopped. Don't know what that was. But yeah, we have a new router now. So hopefully there won't be the same issues this time around. I am gonna just kind of reread the page that we had kind of left off on, the two pages, just to be safe, because I'm not sure what the quality of that was. I kind of like was too scared to go check, if I'm being honest. But also, just a quick apology, I still don't currently have a working mic. We're still relying on my laptop sound, so I hope it's okay. I'm gonna try and talk as loudly as possible and kind of lean as close to my laptop as possible without it hopefully being too obtrusive. But yeah, I just quickly want to check if everything is okay. On my side, it doesn't seem okay. I think something's finally happening. Let me just quickly check. So, just for anyone who's maybe new here, hi, I'm Janae. I read Danmei quite slowly, unfortunately. So we do once every week, currently on Mondays at 9 p.m. my time, 7 p.m. GMT, and we take a 10-minute break on the hour. Usually I do 2 hours. We might push a little bit over that today just to kind of like make up for the fact that I had to cut last week short because of the issues with the internet. So yeah, I think that is more or less it. I am usually not this on time, so I feel like I should maybe give it just 2 more minutes in case people still want to hop in and join. And yeah, I kind of can't think of anything else right now. So we were at page 40 when I left off. And as I said, I'm just gonna start at the top of it. I'm quite excited because I'm going to have my eye test. I am a Cyclops. My eye is tested on next week Friday, I think. So then I might actually have glasses and be able to see properly while I'm reading, which would be wonderful. So anyway, okay, I think we can get started. I said 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a very long time in my mind. Also, I do have coffee here with me, so the part of the 10-minute thing is just me getting up, getting something new to drink, and yeah. Okay, let's just get going. I'm terrible with waiting. Okay. So, Prince Lee has received a secret report that casts doubts on the royal bloodline. The Emperor announced, "I've decided to use the secret method to verify the truth of this accusation." He didn't mention the secret letter or who was to be tested, only that the blood had already been collected. He ordered the imperial physician who knew the secret method to test the blood immediately. The elders and ministers were shocked. For one thing, the emperor didn't explain whose bloodline was under suspicion, and for another, the jade bottles that held the blood the imperial physician was to test had nothing on them but some strange marks, so nobody could tell who they belonged to. I would find it so funny if the markings were something modern that only the year would know what the true meaning of them was. But also, I think I mentioned this at the end of the previous live stream, but I don't know if it was caught or if it was mostly because of the issues. But I kind of would find it very funny if the Sixth Prince actually wasn't the Emperor's son, and while trying to spite Leah and Prince Jing, the truth of that came to light and he ended up spiting himself instead. Okay. Those marks were Leah's loving contribution. After he learned about the Emperor's plan, Leah suggested replacing names with marks so only the Emperor knew which was which. The Sixth Prince was keenly anticipating the Emperor's furious reaction after the results were revealed, but he hadn't been expecting the Emperor to use this method. Normally, the Imperial physician would personally extract the blood to test it, which meant he would know whose it was. But with the Emperor's method, the Imperial physician couldn't tell who the blood belonged to. It was clear that the Emperor was weary of the Imperial physician as well. The safest way to fake the test results would be to bribe the Imperial physician. There weren't many Imperial physicians who knew the secret method, but because Consort Zhang, the Sixth Prince's mother, had saved the life of a certain Imperial physician Pan in the past, they were able to convince him to test the little heir's blood they had retrieved from Prince Jing's manor. The Sixth Prince was only able to smoothly launch this battle after the Imperial physician Pan adamantly promised him that the young Shizi was definitely not part of the royal bloodline. The Imperial physician not knowing whose blood was in which bottle wasn't really a problem for the Sixth Prince, since he had already confirmed that Prince Jing's Shizi wasn't really his. But the Sixth Prince was slightly suspicious as to why the Emperor had decided to arrange things this way. Wang Xi, what should we do? The Sixth Prince caught sight of Prince Jing's consort holding the hurt little Shizi, anxiously discussing plans with Wang Xi. The Emperor had summoned all the princes except the second and third, but there was no sign of Prince Jing either. It seemed the Emperor was still holding on to Prince Jing, leaving his consort panicked. The Sixth Prince ordered his servant to go over and eavesdrop. The consort was quite vigilant, so the servant couldn't get too close, but he heard the consort say the phrases "can't find him" and "no way to switch them." The Sixth Prince mulled over this. It seemed the consort was distraught. The consort definitely knew where the little Shizi came from. In light of the Emperor's arrangements, the Sixth Prince wasn't panicked. The ones who should be panicking were Prince Jing's family. So these measures the Emperor had taken were most likely to guard against Prince Jing and to prevent him from meddling. The Sixth Prince had nothing to worry about. He was sure he'd read the Emperor like an open book, so he settled down and waited for the results. On the other hand, the Sixth Prince's ally, Imperial physician Pan, was a little anxious. He had to be extremely cautious when the royal bloodline was involved. Several Imperial physicians had separately tested the blood, and when they compared the results, Imperial physician Pan came to the sudden realization that all the blood samples were of the royal bloodline. Why was it different from the result the Sixth Prince wanted? Imperial physician Pan was dumbfounded. This concerned the Sixth Prince's career and future. No matter what, the Imperial physician Pan had to let the Sixth Prince know. Claiming he felt unwell and needed to wash his hands, he slipped out in a panic before the test was completed. Oh, and I'm assuming that the Emperor is waiting for something like that. Waiting/expecting it. Chapter 118. Fish babies are the best. Oh, these titles. Imperial physician Pan hid in an out of the way corner. He'd sent off a pigeon with cloth tied to its feet. He couldn't stay for too long because he left saying he was unwell. Just when he was about to lose hope, a man dressed as a servant came up to him. "Are you insane? The man scolded, irritated. Looking for the master at a time like this? I have urgent news to report, Imperial Physician Pan said. Realizing who this man worked for, he blurted out the entire situation, explaining the results of the test. This was a huge problem. The servant couldn't make any decisions himself. He frowned and had the Imperial Physician wait as he personally reported the news to the Sixth Prince. Crap. Imperial Physician Pan had no choice but to keep hiding there. Luckily, the Sixth Prince was in a small tent not too far away. There was no way he was about to run out to meet Imperial Physician Pan himself, and even if he was close by, he would still make his confidant handle it. When he heard about the situation, the Sixth Prince was shocked as well. What was going on? Prince Jing's heir's blood had definitely been tested, so why was there no problem with the results? Could it be that Prince Jing had acted before he did? It must be Prince Jing. That was the only explanation. Prince Jing. Prince Jing again. The Sixth Prince unconsciously clenched his fists. He was so close. If Prince Jing made it out of this unscathed, the Emperor's trust in him would be absolute, and it would be impossible to make the legitimacy of his children an issue again. Once the heir was recognized by the Imperial physicians, Prince Jing's status would only become more secure. To make the Emperor suspicious of the young heir and rope in all the other princes as well, he'd used concubine Lu as the first step. If he kept hesitating, all the effort he'd put in would only end up in Prince Jing's favor. He'd made a mistake. He hadn't thought that was possible. But he'd received the news just in time. It wasn't too late yet. No pain, no gain. Hadn't he spent his entire life scheming for what he wanted? What was one more time? If Prince Jing could meddle, then why couldn't he? How could he possibly just give up? Now. Oh crap, I hadn't expected that. Why did I not expect that? Since he didn't know which bottle contained whose blood, he'd just make sure no one passed the test. That'd still work, right? That's great. Hi! I'm stressed. Because now it's like, I think, Prince Jing and Liya are safe because they're the main characters, they should be fine. But I do stress about the other side characters who also, shouldn't be questioned by the Emperor, but now might be because of this. But I'm hoping that they're waiting to lure the Sixth Prince out with this, knowing that he'll try desperate measures to make it work. The eighth prince's blood must be in one of the bottles. This younger brother of his was already so pitiful. He didn't particularly want to harm him any more than he already had, but if the eighth prince wanted to blame someone, he should blame Prince Jing. Great. The sixth prince passed along his instructions. His expression hardened and he said, "Have Imperial Physician Pan deal with it as soon as possible." Once he received the answer, Imperial Physician Pan headed back inside, distressed. By the time he returned to where the other Imperial Physicians were, Imperial Physician Pan had come up with an idea. The secret to verifying the royal bloodline all came down to the fact that the founding emperor of the dynasty had once taken a medicine called Qilin Gold. Oh! I mean, that's very hand-wavy, but it's at least more legitimate than what used to be done, which is the dropping water into blood, and because of the consistency of blood is more likely to just gravitate to another drop of blood, and then it's like, oh, you're father and son, even though you're not necessarily. This medicine wasn't special at first glance, but once a person ingested it, their blood would emit a faint golden light when it came into contact with a herb called dragon vine. The founding emperor had used this to signify that he bore the mandate of heaven, and subsequently passed the Qinlin gold effect to his descendants. Although it apparently grew dimmer with each passing generation, the blood of a true royal would still emit a faint golden light after coming in contact with dragonvine. Thus, the secret method to verifying the bloodline was dragonvine. The royal family wanted to keep this a secret, so dragonvine had more or less been completely destroyed, and there were only a few plants left, growing in the imperial physician's garden. Imperial physician Pan knew about the dragonvine, and he'd done a lot of research on it. He had a small bottle of medicine in his medicine box with the ability to disrupt the effect of the dragonvine. He had prepared it just in case, but because he didn't know which bottle held the little Shizun's blood, he hadn't been able to interfere sooner. With the Six Princes' order to change everyone's results, he now had a plan in mind. Imperial Physician Pan dipped a silver needle into the medicine. With a casual flick, he changed the yes to an O. As this matter involved royal secrets, there were only a couple of imperial physicians in the tent, and guards were posted outside. While everyone else was busy, he poured his own medicine into all the bottles of blood. With his task completed, Imperial Physician Pan pretended that he just finished his tests and started to compare results with the other Imperial Physicians. Naturally, he had a different result. Imperial Physician Pan said, "Since we're doing this for the Emperor, how can we give him inconsistent results? Why don't we all test it again?" The other Imperial Physicians were disgruntled, but what he said was reasonable, so they agreed to do it again. As he watched the other test the blood with his added medicine, Imperial Physician Pan wiped the bead of sweat off his forehead. He'd finally succeeded. Little did he know that a person behind the tent, responsible for keeping an eye on him, had seen everything he did and recorded it in a book. This time, the Imperial physicians produced completely opposite results. The people the Emperor asked them to test were not of the royal blood. This result was extremely shocking. The Imperial physicians verified it a few more times and even checked the dragonvine that was used, but there were no obvious problems. Imperial Physician Pan sighed theatrically. "If we hadn't retested, I'm afraid someone would have successfully tricked His Majesty." Wow, the nerve. The imperial physicians were unable to find anything out of the ordinary, so they could only present the strange results. When the princes, clan elders, and Prince Li, waiting in the dragon tent, heard the news, their expressions darkened. The eighth prince's face turned pale, and he started to tremble. "Your Majesty, this..." While Prince Li was the one who'd proposed the test in the first place, he truly did not expect that neither Prince Jing's heir nor the eighth prince were of royal blood. What a travesty! "Thank you for checking your work, imperial physicians," said the emperor, suppressing the thunder crackling in his eyes. "Otherwise I might have been kept in the dark forever." When the sixth prince heard this, his heart skipped a beat, and he checked Prince Jing's consort's reaction. Li was already on his knees, holding his children tightly in his arms, and had his head buried in their arms. The sixth prince couldn't see his expression, but he could clearly see the consort's trembling hands. He might be trembling because he's trying to suppress a laugh, but maybe I'm just being a bit ridiculous. Is it even a Chinese drama if there aren't some court shenanigans going on? Lol. I mean, very, very true. I did watch recently, sorry, this is completely off topic, but a historical romance that wasn't technically court drama, but it very much felt like it. It had Neo, who plays Joey and Joe in Fangs of Fortune, in it. It's called Glory, and it was quite fun for the most part. But yeah, no, I think they definitely have their fair share of court politics in this one. Mm, where am I now? Oh, he must be afraid because their lies had been exposed. The sixth prince was elated, but he followed everyone else's example and begged the emperor to calm down. There must be an explanation, the emperor said. As he finished speaking, two groups of guards came into the tent. But instead of seizing the consort and Prince Jing's fake children like the sixth prince thought they would, the guards dragged out Imperial physician Pan. Prince Li and the ministers were shocked. Masquerading as part of the royal bloodline was a serious crime, so they expected all those involved to be dealt with immediately, followed swiftly by several bloody executions. But unexpectedly, the emperor was starting with an imperial physician who seemed to have nothing to do with the situation. Imperial physician Pan was scared witless by the fierce guards. Had the emperor somehow found out he'd interfered with the results? But nobody had been paying attention to him in the tent when it happened. How would the emperor know? Imperial physician Pan tried to bluff. Your Majesty, what have I done wrong? Before he could even finish his sentence, the emperor chuckled coldly and a guard forcefully threw a secret report at his face. Another guard took out his medicine box and opened it, removing the specific medicine with a frightening accuracy. There was some medicine left in the bottle, as Imperial physician Pan didn't have time to get rid of it. He'd kept the medicine with him to hide it in plain sight. He thought he was being smart. The emperor ordered the other imperial physicians to look into this medicine first, then the blood that they tested. After the imperial physicians smelled it and examined it carefully, they were furious. Illumin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, was present in Imperial physician Pan's medicinal concoction, which would interfere with the effects of the dragon vine, meaning it would ruin the accuracy of the test. No wonder their results were all yes the first time, except Imperial physician Pan's, and they turned to no after he suggested they retest. Imperial physician Pan had obviously set things up, so the most recent results were fake. The imperial physicians all changed their tune, afraid the emperor would blame them too. Prince Li and the ministers hadn't even recovered from the last shock before they were shocked all over again. The eighth prince gazed at the emperor with admiration and gratitude. If not for the emperor, he would have been the victim of a terrible injustice. The sixth prince's expression had shifted when the emperor ordered the guards to grab Imperial physician Pan, but before he could grasp what was going on, the situation had changed again. The imperial guards picked out an unassuming servant from the crowd. It was the servant he'd sent to make emergency contact with Imperial physician Pan. Cold sweat from the sixth prince's forehead flowed into his eyes, and his vision turned blurry. Whose servant is that? The emperor asked lightly. The sixth prince didn't dare move or speak. He could feel the emperor's gaze on him. No matter what he said, if he spoke up, the emperor would arrest him. Since he couldn't think of a way to get out of this, he was just going to stop. The only thought in his mind was to find a way to protect himself. This particular servant was a distant relative of his mother's. The man's entire family was in his grasp, so he definitely wouldn't betray him. If anything happened, the servant was to take all the blame. I get that the servant, isn't blameless in all this, but, I do feel bad for him still. See, I love the series because nothing too serious happens and the villains always get their just desserts pretty early on before they cause too much damage. Yeah, it's such a nice reprieve from something more serious like Urha. Um, the other one that I thought might be similar, but I mean, I'm just basing it off of what I've heard of the premise as well as the title. But is the it's something about a pigeon post, which I thought could be a nice one to like intersperse with more serious novels, but I don't know. Um, His only fear was that Imperial Physician Pan would point him out after he was caught. But as long as the only accusation came from Imperial Physician Pan, the Emperor couldn't do anything to him. The Sixth Prince often used letters against others, and so he and Imperial Physician Pan had never used letters to communicate, only spoken word. The same applied to him and this confidant as well, just like the bribery case. As long as he refused to admit it, he couldn't be held accountable. No matter how angry the emperor was, he couldn't punish a prince on the basis of a single person's testimony. Well, what if a guard saw the emperor, not the emperor, the servant communicating with you and relaying messages? Mm. At most, they might find out that the confidant was his servant, but so what? He knew nothing of this. He had simply been deceived by those under him again. The emperor had captured Imperial Physician Pan and a servant. Everyone present, including Prince Li, was confused. Your Majesty, did this person do something? Prince Li asked bravely. The emperor glanced at the sixth prince, but before he could answer, the Bao, who was in Lia's arms, raised his chubby little arm. Oh no, what are you about to do? Grandpa! The Bao knows the answer. That part was thought, not said. The emperor was happy to indulge Dabao. He let Lia bring him up. Lia had practically begged Prince Jing to let him and Dabao participate in this play, but Dabao wanted to add scenes in the middle. And the emperor had even agreed. What could Lia do? He had to play along. The emperor held Dabao in his arms, and Dabao looked down at the dark crowd before him, utterly unafraid. The emperor was pleased by Dabao's courage. Dabao, what do you want to say? He teased. Dabao pointed at the man the guards had captured and said clearly, Grandpa, he's bad. Oh my goodness. I'm reading Pigeon Post right now. It's a lot of nighttime activities. Okay. I mean, I guess that shouldn't be surprising from what I've heard of the synopsis, but Prince Li was flabbergasted. He'd seen a lot of people accuse others, but he'd never seen one like this. He knew that Prince Jing's Shizi was favored, but he didn't know that he was so doted on that he dared speak so directly in front of the princes and the emperor. Prince Li peeked at the emperor's reaction. He was actually smiling. Do you know him? Dabao, the emperor asked. Of course Dabao knew him. This was the bad guy who had snuck into his room before. He remembered him. Dabao stuck out his thickly wrapped hand and said pitifully, needle, poke. Thanks to Dabao, Lia recognized the man now too. He muttered in his head, Son, wake up. This man did threaten your wet nurse and sneak into the manor, but this wasn't the man who poked you. Oh no. I mean, he's trying. Lia had just been thinking that he'd done a great job of playing his two roles, a worried consort and a despairing consort, but in the face of Dabao's sad and pitiful gaze, he was nothing. The emperor took Dabao's cue. He was astounded by Dabao's words and actions, and soon remembered that Prince Jing had mentioned that someone snuck into the manor to take Dabao's blood. Dabao must have seen and remembered him. Dabao is a witness, the emperor said, And I have a special witness myself. In the afternoon, Imperial Physician Pan sent off a pigeon informing someone of the results, that all the blood tests belonged to the royal family. Then, this man told his master of the news. Not long after, the man's master responded with a message to Imperial Physician Pan, ordering him to change all the results. The emperor recounted the conversation between the confidant and Imperial Physician Pan almost perfectly. The Sixth Prince had never expected the emperor to know all this as well. He was stupefied. How had the emperor found this out? If he knew even this, then did he know that the Sixth Prince was behind it? But what could he do? Before the emperor said anything about his identity, was he supposed to pull the rug out from under his own feet and confess to everything? There was no way he'd let that happen. As for Prince Li, initially he was stunned when he heard the eighth prince and Prince Jing's sons weren't part of the royal bloodline. He'd looked like he'd been struck by thunder. Then the emperor explained that someone had ordered Imperial Physician Pan to interfere with the results. Prince Li finally came back to his senses and got to the point. Your Majesty, who was behind Imperial Physician Pan? Since the emperor knew almost exactly what the two lackeys had discussed, he probably knew who was behind them too. But the emperor didn't answer. He remained silent for 10 minutes. During this time, the Sixth Prince felt like he was dancing on the tip of a knife, his heart threatening to beat out his chest at any moment. He met the emperor's gaze several times. It wasn't the end yet. He forced himself to look like he didn't know anything, unaware that he couldn't hide the cold sweat that trickled down his forehead. The emperor sighed heavily. He'd been watching the Sixth Prince, waiting for him to confess. This pause was the Sixth Prince's last chance. If he admitted it, then the emperor might show him some mercy. But the Sixth Prince didn't react at all. The emperor finally lost his patience with his son. Tian Shao, he called out sternly. Almost everyone turned to look at the Sixth Prince. Mu Tian Shao closed his eyes, trying his best not to let his voice tremble along with his body. Royal Father. After Imperial Physician Pan left the tent, my guards followed him, the emperor said at last. He released a pigeon, but the person he worked for was cunning and didn't leave behind any letters or messages, because they had agreed beforehand that the pigeon was the signal itself. When the servant met with Imperial Physician Pan, my guards followed him and found who was behind them both. He looked at his son, Tian Shao. While you were thinking about how to frame Prince Jing and the eighth prince, I was just a wall away. I heard your order to make everyone fail the test. The scheme was your idea, and I am the special witness. I didn't disclose it right away because I wanted to see how far you would go. Mu Tianshao felt the whole world darkening around him. Only the dragon-robed emperor remained. How did this happen? He desperately moved his lips, but he couldn't hear if he even said anything. Whew. It is kind of glorious because I was expecting him to reveal that there had been the assigned guard or something, but saying it in that way of like, oh, I'm the special witness, means there's no contesting this. You know, it's like you dare not even try. I don't know what I dropped, but anyway. Chapter 119, Fish's Mercy. Mu Tianshao was taken away by the guards, and the emperor dismissed everyone else. His punishment would be decided after they returned to the palace. The interrogation of concubine Lu's old acquaintance was also finished. The emperor found out that he'd been drunk and confused. In a daze, he'd run onto the hunting grounds and into concubine Lu's tent. When he sobered up, he realized he'd made a huge mistake, but he didn't remember what had happened when he was drunk. It sounded like a simple case of drunken havoc, but the hunting grounds were heavily guarded. It should have been all but impossible for a civilian to enter. And how could such an inebriated man have found Concubine Lou's tent when he wasn't familiar with the hunting grounds? Someone must have snuck the man in and led him to Concubine Lou. Only someone of high status could do that. The Emperor had already captured the Sixth Prince, and he was set on investigating him. After some hard work, they found out that the Sixth Prince's sedan chair had been in and out of the hunting grounds twice before the festival. There we go. As the Sixth Prince was at the front of the sedan and his consort was pregnant, the guards hadn't been able to take a clear look at the inside of the sedan. When the Emperor had people verify the consort's alibi, he found out that Lady Liang hadn't left the hunting grounds since she'd arrived. That meant one of those sedan trips must have been to bring in a drunken man. The Sixth Prince had even used his pregnant wife as a shield. When he recalled Mu Tianxiao's disregard for his consort's health when he tried to use his unborn child as a way to win favor, the Emperor wasn't surprised. I just feel bad for Lady Liang in all of this. I don't feel like she deserves to be stuck with the situation at all. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't think she ever did anything ill-intentioned. But once they'd smuggled the man in, there must have been someone close to Concubine Lou who coordinated with them. The Emperor looked into the people who came in and out of Concubine Lou's tent. During that time period, the most frequent visitor was an older female servant. The Emperor ordered her arrested for interrogation, and an investigation revealed that she had once been a servant of Consort Li, the seventh prince's mother. As Consort Li and Concubine Lou were close in age and both had sons, they were quite close. Concubine Lou liked the old servant's embroidery, so Consort Li had given her to the concubine. The moment the old servant was faced with the Emperor's furious expression, she kowtowed before him repeatedly, like she was trying to hammer a nail into the floor with her head. With tears and snot streaming down her face, she said that the Sixth Prince had blackmailed her and ordered her to let a man into the tent while Concubine Lou was resting. Justice for wifey. Yes, 100%. As expected, it was the Sixth Prince again. After some thought, the Emperor realized why the Sixth Prince had chosen this servant to let the man into the tent. Since she'd been a gift from Consort Li, if the Emperor didn't know the Sixth Prince was behind all this, a thorough investigation of this incident would have led him to the seventh prince's mother. Yeesh, he really has contingency plan upon contingency plan upon contingency plan, all designed to take out as many people as possible in one go, if necessary. The Emperor had assumed the Sixth Prince was trying to kill two birds with one stone with this plan, but there was far more birds being targeted here. He tried to bring down all the other princes with this plot. No wonder the Sixth Prince had taken the enormous risk of continuing with his plan even after he'd learned that everyone tested was of royal blood. It was the final barrier in his way to the throne, a huge temptation. If Prince Jing and the eighth prince were guilty of polluting the royal bloodline, and the seventh prince was implicated in the incident with Concubine Lou, then the Sixth Prince would be the only candidate left. Though the Emperor had seen many underhanded plots throughout his life, Mu Tianxiao's ruthlessness still had chills running down his back. He never would have imagined that the sixth prince could conceal himself so well. Fortunately, the emperor had been made aware of the sixth prince's ambitions early on, thanks to Prince Jing and the others. Using secret marks and anonymizing the bottles as bait for the sixth prince had been a suggestion from Prince Jing's consort. Prince Jing was the one who tailed Imperial Physician Pan, and he was also the one who'd asked the emperor to sit and listen in on the sixth prince's conversation. There was nothing more convincing than hearing it with one's own ears. Yes. And then also, it's not a thing of, oh, uh, the sixth prince can turn this around and be like, oh no, Prince Jing is framing me. He's lying to you, because the emperor heard it for himself. But in so doing, he cast his net too wide and got caught. I'm just like, we are 56 pages into a 400 and something page book. So, what other villains do we need to deal with that there is still so much of the book left? I'm assuming there are some extras, but I'm guessing there are not like 300 pages worth of extras. If the Emperor's test for Prince Jing was still in progress, then at this moment, with the Sixth Prince's true self revealed, he had already made his decision. Royal Father, are you alright? Leo was worried about the Emperor. Ever since the Emperor had exposed the Sixth Prince in front of everyone else, he'd been in a bit of a daze. What should we do if Grandpa's unhappy? The babies huddled together and whispered among themselves, working out a plan. Dabao immediately went up to Head Eunuch Law, holding a bowl of tea. Head Eunuch Law hurried to stop him. Shizu, you can't. Be careful, it's hot. Liu shook his head, smiling. The tea in front of the Emperor was all at a drinkable temperature, so it wasn't hot. It was better to have children start doing chores at a young age. I don't think they're 1 year old yet in human form. That's a bit much. And Dabao was happy to start. Dabao wanted Grandpa to cheer up. He walked unsteadily, but his grip on the tea was surprisingly stable. The Emperor smiled as he watched the itty-bitty human bring the tea to him. Right when he was about to take the tea, Sabal leaped out from behind Dabao and yelled, "Ah!" to stop him. The Emperor doted on Dabao a lot, but that didn't mean he didn't dote on the other children as well. He wondered what Sabal was going to do. Sabal used his chubby little hands to lift the lid of the tea bowl and took several sips of the tea. He patted his stomach, now full of tea, and sternly nodded at Dabao. The number of Urha extras is obscene. None can beat that. Oh. Dabao continued his walk over and brought the already drunk tea over to the Emperor. What? For a moment, the Emperor didn't react. Leo was flustered. Those two idiots. How could they give the Emperor leftover tea? Leo was just about to take back the teacup with Sabal's saliva on it. We have an image, but I'll show it to you now. When Head Eunuch Law kneeled and cried with joy, "How filial, Your Majesty, the young children are testing the tea for you." Yes, let's go with that, shall we? But also here's the very, very cute illustration that we have for this. Oh, goodness. This was something Head Eunuch Law did as well, so he recognized it immediately. He wouldn't drink from the cup itself, but the effect was the same. No way, how did the children know about something like this? It wasn't likely. Being the Emperor was the most complicated job in the world, and Liu hadn't explained the significance of the role to the babies yet. Perhaps the children got used to seeing head eunuch doing the same thing, since they were often at Tianjin Palace, and they'd learned it by watching. Honestly, I can buy that. Children are very observant, even if they don't necessarily understand the point of something being done. They are very observant about picking up that something is being done. Yeah, Leah's face is just hilarious. Perhaps in the children's eyes, the emperor only ate leftovers. Oh my goodness, could you imagine? But head eunuch Law had understood at least one thing correctly. This was indeed a demonstration of the children's filial piety towards the emperor. The emperor smiled and accepted the teacup. He took a sip, unbothered by the baby's saliva. His sons had always disappointed him, but it seemed there was always new hope in the world. After all this chaos, the emperor was no longer in the mood to hunt. He quickly announced that the hunting festival was over. He would return to the palace. Prince Jing led Leah slowly towards the tent. When they had first arrived at the hunting grounds, they were both incredibly tense, knowing the Sixth Prince was going to make a move. Now that the Sixth Prince had fallen, even though the Emperor hadn't said anything, they knew that this day had determined the future. Leah had been aware of Prince Jing's protagonist halo for a while now. He thought about the hardships Prince Jing went through in the original novel to ascend to the throne. This time around, it had been a lot easier. But so what? Prince Jing had suffered so much in the original story. He deserved a chance to relax. Let's also be honest that it's much easier for Leah if his husband doesn't have to go through all those struggles. Prince Jing was in charge of tracking the Sixth Prince today, but he still made sure to keep an eye on Leah and the children. Though the Sixth Prince was always nearby, Leah wasn't afraid. He knew that Prince Jing was close too, silently protecting him. Tianqi, are you tired? Leah asked quietly. Prince Jing shook his head and turned around to hold Leah's hand. They had some extra time, so they weren't in a hurry to return. Instead, they watched the hazy moonlight for a while. Everything would be different when they got back. I'll always be good to you. Prince Jing's lips moved in a silent promise. Leah batted his eyelashes to tell him, I know. He was about to say something else when a shadow suddenly rushed over and jumped out right in front of him. Leah was startled. Prince Jing moved in front of him, about to draw his sword, when Leah saw who it was. Tianqi, wait, is it, I forgot the cousin's name, but is it the dog? I cannot remember what the dog or the cousin's name is, but I'm so hoping it's the dog because we haven't seen him in forever. The newcomer knelt. Okay, it's definitely not the dog. Down in a strange, twisted posture. Your Highness, Prince Jing, consort, please help me. The Sixth Prince's consort, Liang Suyun, knelt before them, her hair disheveled. Lady Liang, behind her, a group of servants kept calling out to her, but she ignored them and stared at Leah and Prince Jing with tears in her eyes. Leah was shocked. What was going on? It was clearly inappropriate for Lady Liang to be kneeling before him and Prince Jing. Leah felt even more uncomfortable when he saw her slightly protruding abdomen. Don't be like this, he said, flustered. Quickly, get up. He and Lady Liang were technically in-laws, but Prince Jing and the Sixth Prince were enemies now. At most, Leah and Lady Liang had just greeted each other in passing, and since he was a man and she was a woman, he wasn't close to her at all. It couldn't remotely compare to the friendship between him and the Princess of Jinju. Yeah, because I was about to be like, I don't think that stopped you from being friends with some other people that I know. Please help me. I can only ask the two of you. She remained on the ground. The servant next to her wanted to help her up, but she refused and continued to kneel, wiping her tears. Leah exchanged a glance with Prince Jing. "What is it?" he asked. The Emperor had ordered the Imperial Guards to arrest the sixth prince, and Lady Liang must have heard the news. Leah and Prince Jing were absolutely the ones responsible for the sixth prince's fate, so it was a bit awkward that Lady Liang was asking them for help, and Leah wasn't sure if this was another plot or not. Honestly, that sucks, but fair. "I'm sorry, I know I'm being reckless. I want to see Tian Xiao. Please help me," she begged. The Emperor had exposed Mu Tianxiao's true personality in front of everyone, so the words "sixth prince" were like poison now. Nobody wanted to touch them. Anyone who had any sort of connection to the sixth prince in the past wanted to wash themselves of him now. When Lady Liang found out that the Emperor had arrested the sixth prince, she fainted several times. When she woke up, she wanted to see the sixth prince no matter what. He was her husband, after all. Though he didn't treat her very well anymore, she couldn't just abandon him. Besides, she was pregnant with their child. But who could she ask? Consort Zhang didn't have any ideas, and she was hiding from her daughter-in-law too. The Marquis of Dingbei had been quite satisfied with the sixth prince before, but now that all this had happened, his daughter's marriage would implicate him. So he just abandoned his daughter as well. That's nice. Mm. There was nothing he'd like more right now than for her to divorce the sixth prince, so there was no way he'd be willing to help her. Okay, so he's not abandoning her, he just doesn't want to associate with the prince. The Emperor didn't give Lady Liang any chances either. Every time she asked to speak with him, Head Eunuch Law would come out and just tell her to take good care during her pregnancy. Lady Liang had looked around and begged everyone she could, but she was left with no other choice but to shamelessly plead with Prince Jing and his consort. She'd heard that one of the reasons for the Six Princes plot was to try to frame Prince Jing, but she didn't know of anyone else who had the power to help her. "You want us to help you see the Sixth Prince?" Leah repeated. Lady Liang nodded quickly. "Consort, I just want to see him from a distance. I would be immensely grateful." She kept kowtowing at them, and when he saw the way she avoided her belly every time, Leah couldn't bear it. The Sixth Prince was their enemy, but Leah pitied his consort. Wasn't that unbelievable? I'm a little bit concerned. I hope they don't villainize her, because I could see ways that she could turn into a villain and it be justified, but I hope that's not what happens. "Be careful," Prince Jing's gaze warned him. "I don't have any bad intentions, really. I just need your help." The Sixth Prince's consort was almost in despair. "Tianchi, Leah hesitated, glancing at Prince Jing. He was also a parent. He noticed that Lady Liang was always protecting her stomach, so he was sure that she wasn't pretending. The Sixth Prince was despicable, but Lady Liang herself hadn't harmed them. Leah instinctively wanted to help her, and it was something he could accomplish with a little effort. It wasn't like he'd have to do much. They couldn't let the Sixth Prince's consort see him without the Emperor's permission, though. Leah wasn't planning on doing something different. He didn't think he'd survive attempting any other option. All he had to do was beg for the Emperor's mercy and ask him to let the two of them meet. "Just this one time," Leah asked Prince Jing quietly. "Is that okay?" Xiaoye was pitying her. Prince Jing understood. He squeezed Leah's hand. It was a bit risky, but the Sixth Prince's consort was in their control. Prince Jing looked at him and smiled. "You make the decisions." Leah felt sweetness blossom in his heart for a second. At that moment, the system, which had been silent since the main mission, Share the Country, was announced, suddenly sent a notification. "User, you have met the conditions for activating the side mission Heart of Compassion. Helping Lady Liang was a side quest? Leo was baffled. The fish scamming system had said that sharing the country was the last main mission, but there hadn't been any updates after the Sixth Prince was arrested. Leo assumed he would have to wait until Prince Jing ascended the throne, which was fine by him, since he had all the time in the world. The system had previously told him that he could choose to complete a side mission whenever he wanted to. Leo couldn't even remember the last time he'd completed one. The reward for Hearts of Compassion is an ancient medicine prescription. Would you like to begin this mission? Ancient medicine prescription? Leo was a little surprised. What kind of reward was that, and what was it for? I mean, it kind of sounds like it might be important, so let's just do that. The fish scamming system existed to scam him. It wouldn't explain anything it didn't absolutely have to. It was just like with the fish plush. The system wouldn't tell him how to use it. Leo would have to figure it out on his own. An ancient medicine prescription sounded pretty good, though. It was better than nothing. If he didn't need it, then he'd just hold on to it. It might become useful one day. Besides, he wasn't doing it for the reward. He truly did want to help the abandoned Lady Liang. Okay. So, considering we are at the end of a chapter, I am quickly going to take my 10-minute break now. So, we'll be back at about 6 past for the next hour and a little bit, just to catch up with the bit we missed during last Monday. Okay, we're back. There might be internet issues again. I'm hoping it's just my dad's computer being weird and not actually something being wrong with the router, because then it's like I don't know what we can do to fix it because it's supposed to be fixed. So if I suddenly start buffering or I suddenly go offline, you know what happened. But I'm hoping that the issue is to do with my dad's computer, maybe just not being logged in right or something like that. Um, so we'll see. But anyway, we are back. So currently we're on page 67, chapter 120, and I'm aiming to at least get to page 80 tonight. If we can do more than that, great. But yeah, at least 14 more pages. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Fishy rescuing the Emperor. That does not sound great. Having decided he'd help Lady Liang, Liu didn't want her to have to make another trip, so he pulled her along directly with Prince Jing to ask to see the Emperor. Okay, I just quickly want to check something because I have a suspicion, a thought. Heart of Compassion. That's a very vague title, so maybe the Heart of Compassion is to do with the Emperor, like Leah helping the Emperor, not Lady Liang like we would expect. The Emperor was surprised that Leah wanted to help her, but he remembered the way Leah educated his children. Leah was a kind-hearted person, he concluded. That's what he wants. What about you? The Emperor asked Prince Jing, wanting to know his opinion. Prince Jing nodded, showing that he supported Leah. In that case, I'll allow it. The Emperor was happy to give Prince Jing and his spouse what they wanted. He thought of reminding them both about something, but after a moment of thought, he decided to keep it to himself. No, I need to know what it is. Now I'm just concerned. Leah quickly told Lady Liang the news. She was afraid that the guards would stop her, so she asked Leah to go with her. He hesitated for a moment, but he thought he could see things to the end. So with Prince Jing's agreement, they all accompanied Lady Liang to the tent where the sixth prince was being held. They couldn't go any further. Leah had to be careful, and besides, it wasn't like he was the one who wanted to see the sixth prince. Lady Liang entered the tent, thanking him the entire way. When she saw that Mutin Shao covered in dirt with his hands and feet when she saw Mutin Shao covered in dirt with his hands and feet bound, she couldn't stop the tears flowing from her red, swollen eyes. Siyun, why are you here? Mutin Shao was elate to see his wife. The guards responsible for him didn't let him see anyone, so how had she managed to get in? Did this mean the Emperor was relenting a little? Did Royal Father tell you to come? He asked anxiously. Has he forgiven me? It was me. I begged Prince Jing and his consort for help, so Royal Father showed me some mercy, Lady Liang explained timidly, afraid the sixth prince would be upset. I mean, he probably is going to be. Prince Jing again? Wu Tianshao's expression changed as soon as he heard Prince Jing's name, and he pushed his wife's hand away impatiently. Why did you ask him of all people? Don't you know he's the one who did this to me? Having reflected on his failure, the sixth prince believed he'd fallen into one of Prince Jing's traps. The emperor must have started targeting him because he believed Prince Jing's lies. The sixth prince blamed everything on Prince Jing. Not a hint of reflection in this man. Lady Liang wiped her tears, unsure how to answer. Should she tell him that nobody was willing to help them now? Since Mu Tianshao was already locked up, there was no need for him to keep hiding his true nature. He started cursing out Prince Jing's family, even the young children. It was hard to listen to. After he was done, He seemed to finally remember something. He turned to look at Lady Liang, his tone turning gentle. Xian, don't cry. He wiped the tears from her eyes. Since you're here, can you help me beg Royal Father? He said expectantly. He'll definitely let me out for the sake of our unborn child. I'll be good to you in the future, I promise. Maybe you should have started sooner. Just a thought. Lady Liang listened to his repeated reassurance, but her heart stung when she saw the fake smile on his face, devoid of warmth. How could she have been tricked by this man before? This husband of hers looked gentle on the surface, but he only ever thought of himself. Leah and Prince String were standing outside the tent, and they could hear the sixpence cursing them. Prince String was used to people talking about him like that, and he didn't mind it. But when the sixpence started cursing out Shaye and the children, his expression darkened, and his grip on his sword tightened. Leah grabbed his arm. Tenchi, don't. When Leah first heard the sixpence cursing out his sons and his husband, he also wanted to march in there and beat him up. But there was no way he could let Prince Jing actually walk in there and teach the sixpence a lesson. Mutian Shah was the emperor's prisoner right now, so it wasn't appropriate to beat him up in front of everyone. I love that that's the only thing that's really stopping them. Prince Jing's current status meant that he could make the sixpence's life a little harder, but there was no need for him to handle anything personally. It would make the emperor suspicious. Leah whispered a few ways to humble the sixpence into Prince Jing's ear, and when he finished, Prince Jing stared at him, speechless. This was the same man who'd been soft-hearted enough to help Lady Liang just now. I mean, he sympathizes with her. What can we say? Because the sympathy all the way was for Lady Liang, not for Tian Shao. Leah mischievously stuck out his tongue. Those two things are different. Lady Liang is quite pitiful, but the sixpence has done so many evil things. I wouldn't forgive him just like that. Shaye was always reasonable. Prince Jing patted his head and smiled convincingly. The sixpence started throwing out ugly curses again. The two of them looked at each other and pretended not to hear anything. Lady Liang hadn't just come to see how the sixpence was doing. She'd been hoping he would realize the error of his ways and live a peaceful life from now on. The sixpence wanted the throne, and Lady Liang, who was his spouse, had more or less figured it out. In the past, she thought that a wife shouldn't get in the way of her husband's ambitions, and besides, what woman didn't fantasize about having a higher status? And so she never stopped him, but she didn't participate either. She regretted being so delusional in the past. How much better would things be now if she'd convinced him to stop back then? She didn't dare hope for anything else, only for her husband and child to be safe. His eyes widened in disbelief. It was one thing if she didn't want to help him, but why was she criticizing him now? His status as prince's consort was all thanks to him. What good would it do her if the emperor kept him locked up? The sixpence was furious, but he had another plan. He gave her a thin smile. You're right. Tia, come here. I have another secret to tell you. I'm scared. I don't trust him at all. I wonder why. Lady Liang was utterly unguarded against him, so she came closer, only for Mutian Shao to coldly wrap his chains around her neck. Am I gonna need a pillow for this? I don't have one. Tian Shao, what are you doing? She screamed, horrified. Don't move. Mutian Shao kept a tight grip around her neck and shouted towards the outside. Someone come. I want to see the emperor, or else I'll kill her. I'll kill her. Those 3 words shattered the relationship between the sixpence and Lady Liang. She looked at him tearfully, feeling as if her heart was slowly being squeezed to death. Prince Jing and Leah were just outside, and they rushed in with the guards as soon as they heard the commotion. Leo didn't know what to say when he saw the six princes hold on his consort. With his bloodshot eyes and the fierce expression, shouting that he wanted to see the emperor, the sixth prince looked like a demon. The guards were already running to report the incident. Watching Lady Liang struggle, Leo wanted to help, but he was afraid the sixth prince would actually hurt her. Mutinshao, have you no conscience? He spoke up on her behalf instead. She's your wife. She's pregnant with your child. How come he was always running into situations that turned out worse than the original book? Not this statement coming about 2 pages after he was like, oh, things are so much more chill than they were in the original book. Soon the emperor arrived, and he was furious at the six princes' threats. Wu Tianshao, are you insane? He bellowed. Let go of Lady Liang. Royal father, you're here. Please listen to me one last time. I just realized that I didn't do anything wrong. I was framed by Prince Jing. Royal father, you don't know what a scheming person he is. He planned everything. Wu Tianshao tried his hardest to defend himself against while Prince Jing stood there and listened, unmoved. The emperor shook his head in disappointment. You know, if you were actually innocent, you wouldn't need time to realize it. Unless it was something very, very convoluted. But considering it is what it is, there's no, oh, I just realized that I was actually innocent all along. That's enough, Tianshao. Weren't you the one who tried to frame concubine Lu? Didn't you bribe Imperial Physician Pan? Didn't you send someone to sneak into Prince Jing's manor to steal the Bao's blood? Did Prince Jing force you to do all this? Mu Tianshao was stunned. Royal father, how did the emperor even know about him sending someone to extract the Bao's blood? It was like he'd suddenly been enlightened. Mu Tianshao finally figured it out. So Prince Jing had already guessed what he was going to do from that very moment. How funny. When he thought he had an advantage over the other party, they were already waiting for him to fall into a trap. Well, father, Prince Jing really was plotting against me. Mu Tianshao was furious. He wanted to expose Prince Jing. That's enough. The emperor interrupted him icily. Why should I believe someone who didn't even care for his wife and child over Prince Jing? Tianshao, there's a phrase that you've said before to escape punishment. I return it to you now. All of this is just one side of the story. But I mean, that's a really good thing that's irrefutable. Like everything else is, in a sense, also irrefutable. But the emperor being like, well, Prince Jing isn't forcing you to hold your wife and unborn child hostage right now. That's your decision. So, yeah. Royal father, Wu Tianshao was stunned. He started laughing, as if the emperor had just told a joke. After he was done laughing, he gritted his teeth, staring fiercely at Prince Jing and the emperor with the gaze of a trapped beast. What nonsense. You just favor Prince Jing. You've never believed me. An imperial guard moved behind the sixth prince and struck his neck. At the same time, the sixth prince yelled hoarsely, Do it now. No. Leo realized that one of the sixth prince's people must be in the tent with them. Someone had taken advantage of the chaos and tried to stab the emperor. This was the sixth prince's final plan, to attack the person he hated the most at a critical moment. Mu Tianshao hated his birth and hated Prince Jing, who took everything from him, but he hated his father the most. His father, the one who never liked him no matter how hard he tried to please him, the one who never took him seriously. He knew the emperor wouldn't kill him, but he couldn't stand the thought of going back to the invisible person he used to be. At that moment, Leo was the closest to the emperor, so he pushed him aside, but it was too late to dodge, and he was left vulnerable to the dagger. Xiaoyu! Millions of shouts burst in Prince Jing's chest, and he ran over frantically, his sword drawn. Time seemed to stand still. Leo closed his eyes in fear. The sound of wind and human chaos echoed in his ears. He waited. There was no pain. Leo opened his eyes. There was a palace servant holding a dagger in front of him. The tip of the dagger was only a finger's length away from him. With a clang, the dagger fell to the ground. Prince Jing's sword had pierced through the servant's chest from behind. Prince Jing saved him. Tianchi, I'm fine, Leo yelled, his voice rough with emotion. Prince Jing pulled his sword out coldly and kicked the servant to the side. Leo rushed towards him, and Prince Jing embraced him. The imperial guards had pinned the sixth prince to the ground so he couldn't move, while Lady Liang had been rescued and was watching in horror. The sixth prince was devastated. In the end, he still wasn't able to even touch the emperor's dragon robes. He suddenly noticed a beauty dressed in palace robes among the tumultuous crowd. That person was as beautiful as an immortal in a painting and was watching quietly with apathetic, delicate eyes. That's the original love interest, isn't it? The one he so easily scorned. I'm guessing this is the thing that I had forgotten about. The hidden blade that is still gonna cause us some harm. Mutian Shao stared avidly at this person for a while before he remembered who it was. This was the Emperor's new concubine, noble Lady Chu, a chess piece that he had personally delivered onto the Emperor's bed. His. Yar, help me, Mutian Shao begged silently as he lay on the ground. He still had hope. Chu Yanyu was his last hope. Chu Yanyu seemed to have seen him too. He smiled at him from a distance, as gently as he once had in the past. Then he turned and left without any hesitation, taking Mutian Shao's hope with him. Before we continue, we have another illustration that's quite intense. Yeah, it's not the fun kind, but it's good. The Emperor was unharmed after that false alarm, but he no longer intended to show any mercy to the sixth prince, who dared to try and assassinate him. Just kill me, Mutian Shao muttered as he was tied up and taken away by the guards. Lady Liang knelt on the ground, sobbing. Tianchi. Leo held on to Prince Jing tightly. He had been so terrified just now. At the time, he was thinking about the grandpa emperor who was kind and affectionate to his children, but the emperor was also Prince Jing's father. The sixth prince's assassination attempt had been so sudden that the only thought in Leo's mind had been saving the emperor. Prince Jing didn't blame Leo for being reckless. Instead, he hugged him and patted his head. Perceptibly, Leo noticed that Prince Jing's complexion seemed a bit off. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Leo asked, concerned. Something really did seem to be bothering Prince Jing. He gently let go of Leo and pressed his hand to his chest. What, has he been poisoned? Is this where the magical medicine needs to come in? Leo had never seen him wheeze so severely. Prince Jing suddenly coughed several times, and a streak of black blood seeped out between his fingers. Tianchi, what's wrong? Leo was terror-stricken. Okay. We're at the end of a chapter, so let me just quickly grab some more tea. Okay, page 77, chapter 121. This fish loves him so much. Okay, I better not cry. The emperor was panicked too. Nothing could be allowed to happen to Prince Jing. He quickly ordered the guards to take Prince Jing back to his tent and summoned all the imperial physicians to examine him. Prince Jing had thrown up blood. Leo was even more frantic than the emperor. From what he knew, only injuries or a serious illness could make someone throw up blood. Prince Jing didn't have any injuries, so was he sick? They'd been together the whole day, and he didn't even notice. What kind of incompetent consort was he? I don't know why I was expecting him to say, like, what kind of incompetent fish was he? Hello, I just joined at the middle of the stream. I already read all the books. May I know at which scene we are? We are at the scene where Prince Jing just coughed up blood and we still don't know what's wrong. So, yeah, we are at page 77 if you want to follow along. But hi! Leah felt remorseful and worried. When the guards came to take Prince Jing away, Leah jumped up and insisted on going with them. Even though he just vomited blood, Prince Jing was still clear-headed, and he held Leah's hand as he lay in the sedan, hoping it would calm him down. No matter what Prince Jing gestured, Leah agreed to it, but how could he possibly keep it together on the inside? If Prince Jing fell sick, his whole world would collapse. Then what would he do? Some people, when overwhelmed with too much stress, would respond by settling into an extraordinary calm. That was happening to Leah right now. He still had the children. If Prince Jing was sick, Leah still had to support his family. He couldn't just wallow in misery. He had to think of the children and come up with ways to help Prince Jing. When they got back to their tent, Leah dried his eyes and went to check on the children, who were being taken care of by Wang Shi. They were happy to see their fish dad, but Leah unfortunately had to let them know that Daddy Prince Jing was sick, so they had to behave and were going to be left in Wang Shi's care again. Wang Shi was beside himself with concern when he learned that Prince Jing was ill, but the consort was right. The young master needed to be taken care of, and he couldn't let the prince worry while he was sick. Wang Shi knelt down and begged Leah to take good care of Prince Jing. Leah agreed. He went to stay beside him, watching Prince Jing unblinkingly. The imperial physicians came in waves, and each time they advised Leah to go rest. But Leah was sat there and ignored them unless he was asked about Prince Jing's condition. Tenchu, how are you feeling? Leah cupped Prince Jing's cheek worriedly. Prince Jing smiled at him. It wasn't a big deal. After he'd spat up that blood, Prince Jing's complexion improved and his breathing steadied. Leah felt that Prince Jing was telling the truth, but the imperial physicians examined him again and again, and for some reason they wouldn't tell him what was wrong. I'm worried. The longer the examinations went on, the more anxious Leah felt. If the imperial physicians weren't saying anything, did that mean the illness was so severe that even the imperial physicians weren't sure if they could cure it? After some discussion among the physicians, the older imperial physician approached them. Your Highness, Prince Jing, I have some more questions for you. Please tell me the truth. Leah looked at Prince Jing, curious. If the imperial physician asked a difficult question, Prince Jing would have to write. Was he well enough to do that now? Prince Jing was feeling better, so he nodded in response. Leah immediately went to the table to fetch a brush and paper. Your Highness, before you threw up, did you feel any discomfort? Asked the imperial physician. Prince Jing wrote, My chi and blood surged, my chest was in pain, and my throat burned. Have you ever had any similar incidents? Your Highness, the imperial physician asked carefully. Prince Jing thought back carefully, then nodded and wrote, Yes, but I didn't vomit blood. Then, Your Highness, do you remember the first time it happened? Prince Jing hesitated, then wrote, Over a year ago. Over a year ago? Leah's eyes reddened. Why didn't you tell me? Prince Jing quickly wrote, You were sick with a cold, and I was unwell because I was anxious. It got better quickly, so I didn't think much of it. A cold? Leah was very healthy, and he rarely ever caught a little cold or the like. He paused for a moment before he remembered that this had happened early on when Prince Jing proclaimed his love, back when Leah hadn't realized his own feelings yet and was frightened with and was fighting with Prince Jing. Back then, all he cared about was how unhappy he was, so he didn't notice Prince Jing's illness or discomfort. Oh, now he's gonna feel guilty about it. You're welcome, by the way, sorry. We're only seeing that now. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Leo was so despondent that he almost started crying. Prince Jing quickly shook his head. It had nothing to do with you. I didn't pay attention to it. While Prince Jing tried to comfort Leo, the older imperial physician discussed Prince Jing's answer with the other physicians present, then took his pulse again. As for the emperor, he shouldn't have come over personally to check on Prince Jing, but how long the imperial physicians were taking to come to a conclusion was making him worried, so he came to Prince Jing's tent himself. What's wrong with Prince Jing? He asked. After everything that had happened, the emperor had already decided on Prince Jing as his successor. He didn't want anything to happen to him. Since the emperor came to ask personally, the older imperial physician looked around and asked the emperor to step aside to speak privately. They're doing a great job of making me nervous. The emperor complied. The imperial physician knelt and said, Your Majesty, after much examination, it seems that Prince Jing has been poisoned over a long period of time. As he just experienced a serious and stressful incident, this caused His Highness's qi and blood to surge, making him vomit out some of the poisonous blood in his body, which led it to recovering. That's not good. That seems like it would be hard, if not impossible, to reverse. I'm just trying to think when and who. Would it be the Emperor's new consort? True. I'm not sure. Now I'm just getting like war flashbacks to another consort True that we know of. Anyway. Poisoned? Prince Jing was shocked, as were Liu and the Emperor. How could he have been poisoned? Was it the six princes' doing? Liu felt like his heart was in his throat. Imperial physician, what poison is it? He asked hurriedly, ignoring the Emperor. Is it curable? What do you mean by over a long period of time? Considering what Prince Jing said earlier, had he been poisoned for over a year? He vomited black blood because he was poisoned? The Emperor didn't mind Liu's rudeness. Answer quickly, he said. I want to know as well. The Imperial physician took a moment to organize his thoughts. Your Majesty, please allow me to answer the last question first, he said respectfully. We've concluded that the poison in His Highness's body has been there for decades, and it was only this year that the toxicity subsided a little, leading to his qi and blood surging and the poison's discovery. Decades? That's also in the book, but like, what? Decades? The Emperor was shocked. Prince Jing was only in his 20s. How could he have been poisoned for decades? Judging by the look on Prince Jing's face, it was obvious that he was surprised as well. He didn't even know it himself. Do you mean that Prince Jing had been poisoned ever since he was a baby? The Emperor recalled that Prince Jing was very weak when he was born. He'd been examined by the imperial physicians several times by the time he was just a couple of months old. It improved when he grew up, but there had been no signs of poisoning. What's more, Prince Jing's pulse was taken regularly. If he'd really been poisoned for decades, why didn't they find out earlier? I mean, to be fair, if it's like a thing of he's been poisoned since basically day one, then the metric that they measure against would already be a tainted one versus like what his pulse should be like if he weren't poisoned. But this makes me slightly worried because it's like, who was responsible for it. Was it his mother? Was it that one nursemaid who was fired? Like, what is this missing puzzle piece? Because definitely then it's not anyone that we met recently. Your Majesty, the poison isn't very strong, the physician explained, and Prince Jing never showed signs of discomfort. It's very hard to detect just by his pulse. Then, does the poison pose any danger to his life? Asked the Emperor. The older imperial physician hesitated and shook his head. We only know that His Highness has been poisoned, but I have to take his pulse and reference the medical books before I can be certain of the particulars. However, since the poison has been in His Highness's body for a long time, he probably isn't in any immediate danger. I mean, he spat blood. I feel like that's quite concerning. The Emperor was dismayed. He just decided to make Prince Jing his heir. Were the heavens playing a huge joke on him? Prince Jing was born mute, which was already devastating enough, but somehow the bee prince had been poisoned right under his nose. Since it had been for so long, it couldn't have been the sixth prince who did it. He was a few years younger than Prince Jing. Then who could it possibly be? Who else wanted to harm Prince Jing? If it's someone who I trust, I'm throwing this book. Like, if it ends up being Wang Shi, because he's the only one that I can think of that has stayed next to Prince Jing this long, I am crying, because I love Wang Shi. Like, he is the MVP, he better not betray me. No spoilers. But, that said, the question is, was he poisoned a long time ago? And it's like, why do I feel like we've heard something about the poison before and I'm just blanking? But is it a thing of he was poisoned when he was young and the effects are very long lasting? Or is it the thing of he keeps being very subtly poisoned? Because if that is the case, it would mean that it would have to be someone who's in constant close proximity to him. The only other person besides Wang Shi who we really know of in Prince Jing's household is the cook. And I mean, that's prime ways to be poisoned, but she seemed very nice, so I also don't want to suspect her. Okay, anyway, let's stop speculating, it's not gonna help. Who else wanted to harm Prince Jing? The Emperor felt both anger and guilt for not taking good care of his son. He also felt like he had let down the late Empress Xiao Hui. We must rid Prince Jing of the poison no matter what, the Emperor ordered. The older imperial physician complied. The Emperor turned around. Remembering the 4 children, he worriedly asked, "Will the poison be passed on to his children?" The imperial physician wasn't sure, so the Emperor ordered Wang Shi to bring the children over. The elderly imperial physician took each of their pulses and discussed it with the other imperial physicians before coming to his conclusion. The Shizi and the 3 other young masters are not poisoned. Finally, some good news, the Emperor thought. A silver lining at last. The Emperor summoned Wang Shi to question him. Since Wang Shi had always been had always been with Prince Jing, there must have been abnormalities when Prince Jing was first poisoned. Wang Shi would definitely know about something like that. Spitting blood happens so often in Chinese media, I can't really take it very seriously anymore. It feels like a regular. Yeah, that's why I just kind of assumed at first that it was a visual representation of Tianchi being super upset about Xiaoyu being in danger. But then, no, 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 apparently it's him being poisoned, you know? So, great. Wang Shi thought long and hard, but in the end he swore on his life that Prince Jing had never shown any signs of being poisoned. The emperor was already a mess from the sudden announcement that Prince Jing had been poisoned, and decades ago at that. Though he found Wang Shi's answer suspicious, he had no other clues for now. Liu dazedly listened to the emperor's questions, and he finally understood what was going on. Prince Jing had been poisoned when he was young, but how come he didn't know? This was hardly insignificant, so why didn't the original novel mention it at all? He remembered that Prince Jing had stayed healthy until the end of the book. Did that mean that if Prince Jing hadn't vomited blood this time, they never would have found out that he was poisoned, and it would have stayed hidden? Then what was the point of this poison? Poison usually caused symptoms. Prince Jing really didn't seem like he was poisoned, and both in the original book and in this world, Prince Jing remained healthy his whole life. Except Liu was in the middle of bringing ginseng soup to Prince Jing when his hand suddenly shook and the silver spoon clattered as it fell to the ground. He bent over to pick it up, but his hand was trembling so much he almost couldn't hold it. Just now, he'd had a very terrifying thought. It was the emperor and uh, the imperial physician's guess that Prince Jing had been poisoned when he was young. But it was strange. Wang Shi, who was in charge of looking after Prince Jing since he was a child, had never noticed anything out of the ordinary. Liu believed Wang Shi, since there was no reason for him to lie. Could it be that the poisoning had taken place even earlier, before Wang Shi started working for Prince Jing? Like when he was born? Is what I am thinking. But also, don't you have all those very handy dandy memories and things to look back on in your system? So maybe go revisit them with this new knowledge? It was impossible for the poison to not show any symptoms if it was buried so deeply in his body. Could it be that the existing symptoms had been overlooked? That symptom would naturally be Prince Jing's biggest weakness, his muteness. Liu wasn't an imperial physician, but he knew from reading palace novels that there were poisons that could cause deafness and muteness. Was it possible that Prince Jing wasn't born mute, but that it was a result of the poison? Liu suddenly remembered a small incident from some time ago. Prince Jing didn't plan on having more children because he didn't want to pass on his muteness, but Liu really wanted to have a daughter, so he'd asked around about the emperors and empresses' ancestors to calculate what the odds were, but in the end he found out that none of them had been mute. That is, out of hundreds of people in over a dozen generations, man or woman, Prince Jing was the only one born mute. Genetically speaking, that was nearly impossible. I don't know about the validity of that, but let's just go with it for now. But life was complicated. Liu had transmigrated at a very young age. He was hardly an expert on genetics. Anyway, it could have been simply a mistake on the part of the original novel's author. Now that he thought about it, many parts of the book that had seemed like plot holes or lazy writing to him when he'd read it had gradually been explained. For example, Prince Jing's name, Tianqi, was different from the other princes' names, but that was because he was originally named Tianjing and had changed his name. Then was there also possibly a logical reason for his super unlikely but somehow still existing muteness? Maybe Prince Jing was poisoned when he was very young, and it was misunderstood to be innate. Then, because of this, others never realized that he was poisoned. Of course, it was only a guess. If it was true, then that would be frightening. It would be best if Li Ye could find some evidence to either confirm or deny it. When Prince Jing was very young, before Wang Shi came poisoned, a scene floated into Li Ye's mind. The newborn Prince Jing lying in his swaddle as he stared at his wet nurse, who was swallowing a packet of medicine with tears in her eyes. Li Ye was shocked at himself. Why did he suddenly think of that? So what, did she poison herself, and because she was breastfeeding Prince Jing, the poison spread to him? I'm not sure, let's see. This was the secret of Prince Jing's that he'd never really understood. The time period was right, and it was before Wang Shi's time. But the wet nurse was the one taking the medicine. No, that wasn't right. He recalled one of his conversations with the princess of Jinju, who had mentioned that a wet nurse could pass medicine to a child through milk to cure the child of an illness. Okay, that's kind of satisfying, I'm not gonna lie. Then, if the wet nurse took poison with the child, Li Ye felt like he'd been grasping wildly at straws and suddenly grabbed the right one. Xiaoyu. Seeing him lost in thought, Prince Jing squeezed his fingers. Li Ye came back to his senses and resisted the urge to tell Prince Jing. He only had guesses and conjecture, so he couldn't impulsively tell Prince Jing. If the poisoning had nothing to do with his muteness, wouldn't he just be giving him false hope? I mean, it's not really false hope, though. I guess in the sense of like, oh, you don't have to worry about passing it on to your children, that might be false hope. But in terms of everything else, like, he's already mute, so it's not like, okay, we can fix you. I also, like, I have this feeling that they're gonna do it, but I hope they don't fix his muteness, because I hate that trope so much. It's like, no, please don't do that, because I love that they have the representation for Prince Jing here, and that he is like a complete person regardless of the fact that he is mute. It forms such a great part of his character that he is just accepted that way by Li Ye, and that it's not something that needs to be fixed. So I really hope that they don't go that route, but considering we are now prescribing that muteness to a poison, I'm very, very scared that they're gonna do a thing where they're like, oh, now that the poison has, been removed, suddenly his vocal cords that have been poisoned for 20 odd years and should logically then not be developed, or there should be issues that would mean he would still remain mute, will just be fixed, and he'll somehow be able to like talk, no problem, all of that. I hope that's not it. We're not checking for spoilers, but I really hope that's not it. We'll take it as it comes. But anyway. Okay, the most important thing now was to help the imperial physician determine what the poison was. No matter what, I'll save you, he decided, gazing at Prince Jing. Sobbed. This fish loves him so much. I don't want to be a widow. I know it's not funny, but it kind of like still gives that vibe. Okay. Chapter 122. Fishy Solution. It would take the elderly imperial physician a couple of days to determine exactly what poison Prince Jing was suffering from. Leo recalled that he'd just finished a side mission to help Lady Liang, and the reward at the was an ancient medicinal prescription. The mission was completed when they'd confronted the Sixth Prince, so he should be able to collect the reward quickly. Leo didn't understand why the fish scamming system would reward him with an ancient medicinal prescription, but now that he thought about it, did it have to do with the poison in Prince Jing's body? He hoped it was the antidote, but he couldn't enter the system in front of the Emperor and the Imperial physician to retrieve it. If he did, he'd pass out, and that might cause panic. Plus, because of Lady Liang, he and Prince Jing had been up all night, so the time limit for his transformation was quickly approaching. This had clearly also occurred to Prince Jing, since he kept staring at the silver hourglass reminding the year with his gaze. Leo smiled and lightly pinched Prince Jing's palm. He cleverly excused himself to the Emperor, saying he needed to change, and the Emperor waved him away since he was busy talking to the Imperial physician. Leo quietly slipped into the next tent. The tent was empty, and the countdown for his transformation time hadn't appeared yet. Leo entered the system first and collected the reward for Heart of Compassion. With the prescription in hand, Leo took a look at it, but as expected, he didn't understand it because he didn't know anything about medicine. Leo put it away. "What's the prescription for?" he asked the system. But just as he expected, the fish scamming system didn't reply. There were Imperial physicians outside, though, so Leo didn't need to insist on the answer from the system. All he had to do was ask them to take a look at it and tell him what it was for. He had another goal for entering the system. Leo asked, probing, "System, is there a secret behind Prince Jing's muteness?" The system was aloof as always and didn't respond, but Leo had figured out a pattern from the system's non-answers. The system would only respond when the answer was definite. Okay, one answer is definite. The original novel had spent a lot of time describing how Prince Jing couldn't speak since he was a child, that the Emperor had given up on him early on because of it, and how the other princes had laughed and made fun of him for it. If his muteness was innate and there wasn't any more to it, then it should be an obvious definitive setting of the story. Why couldn't the system answer the question? Since the system didn't answer, it meant that there was another answer. Leo suddenly became spirited. "Is Prince Jing's muteness innate?" he asked bluntly. ... If the system was silent one more time, Leo was going to jump for joy. "System," Leo asked, "can Prince Jing's muteness be cured?" Okay, we're going there. ... Since it didn't say it couldn't, that must mean it could. Ha! I know the answer even if you won't say. Leo happily blew a kiss at the system and left giddily. When he left the system, he heard the countdown. Leo was experienced with transforming, and since the transformation duration was now a whole day, he could almost immediately use his skill again when he turned back into a fish. He waited calmly. Time was up. In a flash, he turned into a silver koi with golden scales, and he even flicked his tail in midair. The next moment, he used his skill and once again became the delicate and dignified Prince Consort Yu. Since he'd said he needed to change when he left, he now switched his robes and returned to Prince Jing's tent. I don't know why I was expecting someone to walk in while he was a fish, just because, it seemed almost too good to be true for it to go that smoothly. "Royal Father, I remember there was an ancient medicinal prescription in a book I've seen before. I'd like to ask the Imperial physicians to take a look at it and see if it will be of any help with Prince Jing's poison." Leah took out the prescription. The most important thing now was to cure the poison. Even if it was no use, he had to give it a try. The Emperor knew that Leah was beside himself with worry. The elderly imperial physician hadn't figured out what the poison was yet, and the consort was already trying to offer up a prescription. However, the Emperor was quite moved by his concern and gestured at the imperial physician to take a look. The imperial physician smiled. This is a prescription for strengthening and nourishing the body, but it won't cure the poison. Really? He was disappointed. Yes, the elderly imperial physician felt bad seeing Leah's dismay, but he continued. This prescription is used for strengthening the body, but if the poison is to be cured, we have to find out what kind of poison it is first. Leah nodded. The imperial physician made sense. They had to know what they were dealing with before anything else. Then, how long until it can be determined? The elderly imperial physician stroked his beard, a little chagrined. Researching medical books took some luck, so he couldn't give an exact date. If he was lucky, it could take days or months, but if he was unlucky, it could take years. I mean, we at least have a protagonist with a golden finger, so we should be fine. Also, I know you tagged a spoiler, like I see there's a spoiler tag, but please don't drop spoilers in the chat because it's very hard to avoid looking at it. If you want to drop spoilers, you can do the tag thing and then drop it in the comments of the, like, once this goes to not rewatch, but like once it's fully posted. Let's see. The imperial doctor had told him the truth. The emperor wasn't really satisfied, but he knew that this was just how things were sometimes. He planned on having the imperial physicians handle the diagnosis and treatment while he sent out an imperial notice calling for famous physicians from across the country. Perhaps a physician outside the palace would know. When he heard the imperial physician's answer, Leah clenched his jaw. He had pretty much confirmed through the system that Prince Jing's muteness had to do with the poison. He suspected that poor Leo had administered it back then, so he had to confirm that for everyone else somehow, no matter what. Summoning physicians were one thing, but Leah could take a shortcut through the system. The system had shown him the secret of poor Leo in it. If she was the one who poisoned Prince Jing, then there might still be clues left in her former quarters. After the elderly imperial physician left the tent, Leah knelt and asked the emperor if he could take a look at the sealed room in Changchun Palace. Okay, we are at the hour and we're still a decent ways away from the end of the chapter, so I think I'm gonna stop here. We are at the top of page 91. No worries. I didn't put like a rule or anything like that on here, so there's no way for you to have known. The thing is also, like, I am insatiably curious, so it's very hard for me to resist temptation, but just also in case there are maybe other viewers who haven't read it yet, then it's better for them to hopefully also not get spoiled. So anyway, okay, we are at the end of this, and yeah, I am a little bit disappointed that it seems like Prince Jing is gonna be miraculously cured, because I just think it's a trope that a lot of fantasy genres and things fall into, and I wish they wouldn't, you know, but it's okay. The rest of the novel has been very enjoyable, so I will accept this one flaw in it. Damn it. I do appreciate that for at least most of the entire novel we actually had him fully just living that way and it being totally like normal. So yeah, I don't know. But with regards to like I just I know that it's maybe not the best thing that things get so quickly and easily resolved, but I love it. I need it so much. So I'm glad this book is giving it to me. And at least they don't like linger too long on things. They immediately presented us with a new problem. So I'm gonna go because I can see my camera's battery is about to die. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. I will see you next Monday. 再见。